Welcome back to questions and answers on our Elements and Color Casino Retreat. This is the final day for this Q&A. We have a few meditations left. We have a talk this evening, the final talk of the retreat. And tomorrow morning, we have our final morning meditation. And by now, if you've been following all the talks and the Q&A, you have an abundance of information. You might be the largest, best informed audience on the casinos in history. So let us proceed with the first question, Pia.
Ajahn, our first question is from Anonymous in Cary, North Carolina, United States. I have been doing a daily air element meditation for the past year and didn't know that it was a kasina. I started by observing branches moving in the wind and then changed my focus to just the wind or space between objects. I have started to sense a, quote, substance to the air element and now focus on that even in public spaces. Can you comment on this experience and advise how to proceed with this kasina meditation?
Yes, well, that's kind of cool. You are a natural, and it's quite possible that you have, that this is actually a past life tendency. This is something you've worked on before, and it's just coming up unconsciously for you. So this is very interesting. Now, this is in the suttas, they talk about this, that people are naturals because they have done past life practice. So, yeah, develop it, make it systematic, and also the fact that it's a specific meditation is good to know. So now you have grounded. It's like somebody who's walking around whistling little phrases from Mozart operas, and then they find out there are actually opera singers and people who specialize this, and then so they have natural talent, and they're manifesting some sort of pre-existing tendency towards this. So that means that you probably can go quite far with this. So excellent. You should keep up the practice and investigate it more, and listen to the talks on the air casino. Yeah.
Our next question is from Eva in Chilliwack, British Columbia, Canada. Dear Ajahn Sona, I repeatedly have two competing voices that say, quote, if you just keep suppressing hindrances, you are not addressing root problems. And the other says, duh, drop the doubt and just enjoy the experience of not having hindrances for a while and see what happens. I'd love to stop that first voice. May I?
Well, Eva, I'm glad you asked that question because it's incredibly important. And the two voices, the first one that says that you're not addressing the issues is the voice of modern psychology, analytical psychology. They don't, in the West, we don't have any other way of addressing our issues than going to analysis or psychological counseling, all this kind of stuff, because we don't know of any other way. But the Buddha proposes an entirely different way. He's not interested in exploring your history. So how Buddhism views the process is that if you do not allow the hindrances to be active, you don't have to explore the contents of what your anger is saying. It's angry at somebody or something in your life or you or something like this. We don't care. We're not interested in investigating that. What we're interested in doing is interrupting it rudely. So you rudely interrupt the hindrances. And each time you do, they lose strength because that circuit is not being reinforced. It's like a path through the forest. If nobody walks on it for long enough, it disappears. So don't keep using that circuit. And you don't need to know the history of it, because the history of it is infinite. There's by the way, deep analysis doesn't free people from the hindrances. So people go through psychological analysis and psychological counseling and everything. They perhaps become normal or functional, but they don't necessarily overcome the hindrances. That's a supernormal condition of what is called enlightenment. So Western psychiatry doesn't know what enlightenment is. They have normative ideas. Western psychology, I suppose, doesn't know what enlightenment is either. It does. You can't say things like that in a university setting. So we are interrupting and not using the hindrances. And this is called right effort, by the way. So under right effort are 4 right efforts. And the first one is to prevent unwholesome the hindrances from arising. And if they arise, then to remove them. And so that's very explicit. And it's not about investigating them or tolerating them or living with them at all. It's about preventing and removing. It's very explicit in the instructions under right effort. And then what is to fill in? What are you to be thinking and feeling? Then you are to be thinking and feeling the positive ones, which are called enlightenment factors, which are mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, tranquility, samadhi, equanimity. These are enlightenment factors. And those are to be brought into existence and maintained and deepened. And they take over. If you use those circuits, they become stronger. And the hindrances become weaker. So you bury the hindrances. By the way, they're not buried they're not repressed and somehow undealt with. They simply disappear. And this is the experience which meditators have. It's like whatever the issue was just doesn't exist anymore. You don't solve your problems. You dissolve your problems. The answers to your problems are never, they never come up. They just, the question just disappears in the end. You don't care anymore. It's not a question. It's not a problem anymore. It's just gone. So this is what happens. And so this is a much more direct process, because investigating and examining everything is an infinite process, and it doesn't lead to supernormal states of well-being and emotional happiness. But so the Buddha is proposing another version of this. There might be some schools of psychology that use this, and probably they're influenced by Buddhism. There's this cognitive, what do they call it? Cognitive behavioral psychology, where they're reframing things, etc. So that's kind of along those lines. But basically interrupting, changing the channel on your thoughts, replacing with positive alternatives, etc. These are the things, these are the methods. And if you look at my talks, you can see there's something called 5 methods of removing the negative thoughts. And this has not been made enough of in Buddhist circles, because quite often you have kind of mindfulness courses that are very secular. They maybe refer to the Buddha, but they're really not legitimate heirs to the Buddha's teachings, because they're really not, they don't have right view about the nature of Buddhism. So they're borrowing material from Buddhism, but misapplying it and mixing it with pop psychology. So this is a problem. So you're on the right track, and listen to the second voice, which is, just dissolve it, replace it, dismiss it, and bring into existence these positive structures. And it will be very, very effective. It will move you ahead very quickly. You will find out by doing it that way. Okay, let's go on.
Ajahn, our next question is from the live feed from Will in Oberlin, Ohio, United States. I appreciated your talk's concluding story about the goldsmith. In everyday life, what is the proper balance of sense restraint versus the opening to this doorway of the beautiful through nature?
The Buddha advised the monks to live in the forest, practice in the forest, stay in the forest, O monks. And actually what happened in Buddhist history is eventually large bodies of monks started to move into villages and cities. You can see thousands of monks living in Bangkok and down in urban areas. And with that, practice tends to go downhill. The Buddha knew that. And so the monks really shouldn't be mixing in there. And so lay people can also take this as a lesson, like encourage you to find your way into a less human world, a world of more of nature, because the structures of social life are very strong conditioning factors for a person. We are designed to be very conscious of the sounds that humans make, the speech that humans make. It's very hard to ignore somebody talking. The next level down of hard to ignore is a dog barking. So animal sounds are also, it's important that we tune into them because they might be dangerous to us or something like that. But if we can get into nature and away from the sounds of people, we are, and all of the impressions that they make on us, we are free from a whole level of strong conditioning. If we have to be around people, we should be around people who are very serene, wise, kind, generous, and that will be a positive influence on us. But nature is a very benign or neutral kind of environment. So tree is very, if you've been in the city for a long time and then you go out into the forest, well, for the first few hours, trees are magnificent and very interesting. But after a few hours, a tree, you get, it's not a thrill anymore. It's just there. It's benign, neutral, calming. And so that's the advantages of nature. And if you find nature uplifting, that's fine because it's a very neutral type of background experience. And you can develop positive emotional experiences in nature. So feel free to go into nature and celebrate the freedom that comes with it. If you respond to nature, that's a good sign. Not everybody can. Lots of people would be afraid to go into nature, and they find it very uncomfortable, boring, static, and that's why we go there. And if you're more sensitive, you won't find it boring in any way. You find it like Mother Nature. It's supportive and helpful to you. Okay, next question.
Our next question is from Nishata in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I have been meditating on the air element with a fan on the lowest setting pointed towards my face, but I find that I get a headache after an hour. If I angle the fan away from me, I cannot feel the air. Could you please suggest another way of replicating being in a cave with the wind blowing outside?
Yeah, Nishta, you don't have to do it for an hour. I would say that maybe 10 minutes in front of the fan is enough to give you the impression of the wind, of the air. And then turn it off or point it away from you. And then see if you can maintain the effect of the air element, the impression, the touch impression. See if you can recover that with your mind. And if you can, sustain it as long as you can. If it fades, then go back in front of the fan for another 5 or 10 minutes. So an hour in front of there is unnecessary. So you're all you want is time enough to pick up the impression. And it may even not be 10 minutes. So that's how you should explore it. But I admire your determination in sitting in front of a fan, blowing in your face for a full hour. The details of all of this, it's impossible to put in every detail. But I'm glad you asked that question because that's a good point. And the same with staring at the colors or Kasina discs. You don't have to perhaps stare at for them for an hour, but 10 minutes, 15 minutes perhaps, or even less, and then close your eyes, try to pick up the sign. If it doesn't work, then you open your eyes and try again. So these are in shorter spurts. Yeah.
Our next question is from Linda in Ashland, Missouri, United States. When working with the Earth Kasina, I find it hard to visualize when I close my eyes, but I have a distinctive feeling of calmness, weight, and sinking into the body. I also sleep better. Can Kasina practice work even if you can't recreate the image in your mind?
Yeah, Linda, that's great. You're internalizing the earth element. You're experiencing the feeling of the earth, the solidity and gravity of the earth. And the image is not so necessary. If you can get that sort of essential feeling of solidity, that's wonderful. And of course, it seems to be helping you to sleep. That's also good. Your mind is relaxed. Sleeping well, like going to sleep easily, sleeping deeply, and waking well, and having no strong negative dreams is the sign of progress in the path. This is what the practice of loving kindness also does. The first three benefits of loving kindness practice, deep loving kindness practices: one sleeps well, one wakes well, one does not have nightmares. And so also the practice of these kasinas help you to sleep well, to wake well, and to reduce the anxiety and fear in one's life, which are the roots of some of the negative or nightmare dreams and so forth. So yeah, you're having a good result, and that you can't maintain the visualization is not a problem. Just stay with earth element practice for a while. Yeah.
Our next question is from the live chat from Chris in Fort Worth, Texas, United States. Dear Ajahn, when I visualize the blue disc, I see it in the center of my head, not frontal lobes. Is this okay?
Well, it's a little hard to know exactly what you're saying, and that's the problem with interior reality. Is like when we talk about what's going on in our mind and how we experience things, it's not always easy to communicate to another person. But watch the Kasina videos on the computer screen, and we try to give you an impression of what it looks like inside the mind. So we did a pretty good job, and only in the days of computers and this kind of thing can you actually produce sort of what a person would see within their mind, the mind's eye, in terms of the colors, and that the image is at first blurry and moves around and eventually becomes stable and highly super normal. And so watch the computer screen reproduction of this in the say the blue Kasina meditation. It's probably a 3 or 4 minute video with the description. I'm narrating the description of that as well. So go and find that and see if that helps clarify what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay, Pia.
Our next question is from Art in Bellingham, Washington, United States. Can you clarify the relationship between Kasina practice and the jhanas? For example, are jhanas obtained when the depth of the absorption achieved in Kasina practice is sufficient that the characteristic features of the jhanas are experienced?
Yes, Art. That is exactly what we're aiming for. The kasinas, the elements and the color kasinas are all capable of delivering you into all four of the jhanas, and that's the purpose of them. These are samadhi practices. There is a analytical practice. There's an insight practice with elements as well. That's 4-element practice, and there's a bodily 4-element practice. But this is what we're doing here, is showing you how to develop the jhana factors on utilizing the kasinas, the the 4-element kasina and the 4-color kasinas. You can also attain jhana on the 4 sublime emotions of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So all of them can give you jhanas, and these element and kasinas are specifically for the cultivation of samadhi. Yeah. Next.
Ajahn, our next question is from the live chat from Shamina. Thank you, Ajahn. I particularly like the wordless absorption aspect of this practice. I have trouble engaging the earth experience from my clay disc, but putting my hand on it helped. Thoughts?
That's actually making it by hand is kind of the first step. And I noticed, like in the commentaries, they say that the monk doesn't just borrow a kasina or use somebody else's kasina disc of earth. He makes it from scratch out of dirt and water and etc. So he's involved with his hands making it. And this is, while you're doing this, you're picking up this sign of earth through touch. So yes, I would say it can be very useful to touch it, feel the weight, the extension experience, the solidity element with your hands, by all means, and then see if you can retain that impression internally as well. So that's absolutely fine to do that, and maybe even necessary to do that, to contact it, feel it, know the earth. Yeah, good. Okay.
Our next question is from Sarah in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. In yesterday's Q&A, you spoke about the need to raise enough energy and joy prior to settling into concentration. You said if the energy joy step is skipped, it can lead to falling asleep during meditation. Can you speak to ways of raising the energy and joy, ways of doing that on and off the cushion?
Yes, so energy can be created by walking meditation, getting light in your eyes. So it's good to go outside and look at the sky, if it's night, look at the stars, look at the moon. Of course, if you're in Vancouver, there are no stars or moon. It's just always raining. I feel so sorry for you. It's an inside joke. I'm from Vancouver originally, so it took me 20 years to dry out from living there. So, okay, humor maybe is also a way of raising joy and energy. So, change your attitude. Think cheerful thoughts, joyful thoughts. Walk around, smile, whether you feel like smiling or not. Splash water on your face. Take a shower. Go out on the balcony, breathe fresh air, look into the distance. And there are certain meditations also that raise energy. And so loving kindness raises energy. Strangely enough, the thought of death raises energy, because when you think of that life doesn't last forever, it can go very suddenly. We suddenly get a sense of urgency. So if somebody has a close brush with death, their life becomes vivid. And you notice that if you're ever in a dangerous situation, the last thing you are is sleepy. You are wide awake. If there's somebody is threatening you, or an animal's threatening you, or there's a huge storm, something like this, you are charged with energy. And it's life energy, it's life-preserving energy. And you think, I have a limited time here, I better get on with this. So this is energizing, and that's a specific topic, which I have addressed in previous talks. So look up the death reflections. Mara Nasati is the name of the video. Reflections on death. And the specific benefit of reflection on death is it increases energy, and urgency. So yeah, there are many joyful ways to do it, and explore all of those. And when you feel slothful and heavy, don't just persist through it. Wake yourself up, stand up, do deep breaths, do a little bit of yoga, stretching, whatever, splash water in the face, look up at the stars, etc. So those are ways to generate energy and perhaps joy as well.
Our next question is from Ina in Elmshorn, Deutschland. Dear Ajahn Sona, my question is about the color kasinas. Why do we have the 3 primary colors and the color white, but not the color black as a meditation object?
Well, black is maybe they didn't consider it a color, but also it's not a very active influence on the mind. So the primary colors have a very emotional effect on the mind, and also white does. Black is the night, the color of night, and what you tend to do at night is go to sleep. So you can use dark blue though, so a darker blue is okay, but this seems to be these 4 primary colors seem to be the optimal for bringing forth this full interest and the side effect of this joyous attention. And so they choose these colors. As I mentioned before, it isn't the in-between colors. It's not sort of pink and orange and maroon and chartreuse and all this kind of thing. It's just these primary colors that seem to be the best ones to use. They're the simplest.
Ajahn, our next question is from the live chat from Lee in Mexico. Sometimes when I am in absorption and the breath disappears, my mind starts to search. Would using a kasina perhaps avoid this?
Yes, kasina might be able to take you farther than the breath. This is what happens in history. By about the 1st century, about 400 or 500 years after the Buddha, the commentaries start featuring the kasina meditations having priority over breath meditation. And by the time you get to the Visuddhimagga, which is almost 1,000 years after the Buddha, breath meditation is considered extremely difficult. And the earth kasina or the color kasinas are considered much more approachable. So this is a commentarial, this is a change that happens through history, and we don't want to necessarily dismiss it as something that's merely commentarial. It may be the case that these were practices more commonly used in the time of the Buddha and were so obvious that they didn't need a lot of explanation. But the breath is a very subtle and demanding. It's the air element, but it's a personal air element. By the way, I just want to mention that in the forest tradition in Thailand, monks often use an oil with menthol in it, and they rub it on their nostrils to do breath meditation, and it makes the air coming in your nose feel very cold, because you're meditating in the forests of Thailand, and especially in the hot season, it's incredibly hot. That we call it a personal air conditioner. If you put a little bit of menthol on your nostrils, you can really vividly experience the air coming in, and it enhances the intensity of the experience. So that's a little trick used by monks in the sweaty forests to make it more vivid. And if you're in Mexico, it might be, I'm sure it is rather hot down there. So if you can get a little bit of mentholated oil, just touch it to the nostrils, and then every breath is like air conditioned. So that's a way of enhancing that. But the color casinas may in fact be much more approachable for a number of people. Yeah. Okay.
Ajahn, our next question is from Mudita in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. Dear Ajahn, I am bathing in joy and so much in the present moment. Through this meditation, I have gained two qualities: confidence and such worthiness for someone who was so insecure. This is such ease and pure joy for me to add to right speech and right view. Is it my ego, or should I just enjoy the ride?
Enjoy the ride, Mudita. Enjoy the ride. That's wonderful. By the way, the Buddha talks about how does a person gain self-confidence? And so that a person who is, he said a peasant in the presence of a king, if the peasant has virtue, has basic virtue, they practice the 5 precepts, they will have a sense of personal worth and dignity, and they will not be intimidated in the presence of even very famous or powerful people. And if those powerful people do not have virtue, underlying their personalities, whatever position of power, they will be insecure. And you can see this in all kinds of politicians and movie stars and famous people. The fact that they have power, money, fame, or even beauty and all of these things, they may be actually very insecure personally and never feel very confident. But a person who has strong virtue, that is the gift of confidence. And the fact that you're practicing these kasinas and having clarity of mind means that your virtue is good. It's good enough to allow the mind to be clear. So this is the foundation, by the way, of these kasinas and this of meditation and serenity meditation. You really can't get serenity meditation if your virtue is a mess. And if you establish yourself in virtue, and the next thing that automatically comes is a sense of personal peace and self-worth. And so this is very important for the entire, whoever is listening to this. Understand that the cure for these things is not a lot of psychoanalysis. It's a devotion to upright behavior in life. Thought, speech, and action are what make you a true and valuable person, and nothing else. You can have all the money in the world and be worthless as a human, but have no money. But if you're an upright, virtuous person, you are a worthy being in this universe. Okay, next.
Our next question is from the live chat from Dinko in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Dear Ajahn Sona, does your book, The Mystery of the Breath Nimitta, explain the nimitta in air kasina meditation, or is it specifically related only to the breath meditation and anapanasati?
It is references both, and it's really important that the breath meditation is a form of air kasina, air meditation. And the reason why I wrote the essay is that there seems to be some confusion in the commentaries about what we call the nimitta established on the breath meditation. So the commentaries go into great depth about the nimitta. So the nimitta is a mind-made heightened clarity sign that appears in the mind, and which is the harbinger, the classic sign of entering deep samadhi, deep concentration. So what if you do the blue kasina? What is the sign? What is the nimitta that appears? Blue. What if you do the red kasina? The red. Yellow, yellow. White, white. Earth kasina, earthiness. Water kasina, water. Air kasina, air. The fire kasina, fire. Breath meditation, they say light. Like, what? Because why would light appear? Why is light the sign, the nimitta of breath meditation? I think there's confusion there. And the earlier commentaries say that the characteristic of the sign is that your whole head at first starts to feel it's like it's full of air. You're an airhead. By the way, this is a wonderful thing to be. I think it's a high school insult to call somebody an airhead. It means that they don't have any profound thoughts in there. But that is devoutly to be wished for, to have be free of, to be light and airy, buoyant. And you can induce this through your head, first of all, because that's where the heaviness comes, the worry, the burdens and everything. If you can manage to clear those out and feel that your head is just full of cool air, wonderful. And your whole body then also accepts this. So this is why I wrote that essay. And that thing, I think I wrote it 25 years ago. And in order to clarify this idea of breath meditation and the nimitta, the sign that arises, so it's called the mystery of the breath nimitta. Yeah, and it's on our website, and it's floating around in cyberspace as well. If you're very fast, you can grab it out of cyberspace. Yeah. Okay, next.
Our next question is from Simon in Palm Desert, California, United States. Dear Ajahn, I'm new to kasina practice, and during the past few days, I've been unable to produce the mind-made recreation of the kasina. If I continue daily practice after the retreat, how long should I give it before thinking perhaps this visual practice isn't for me?
I think try it for a month, and maybe every second day for a period of an hour, something like that. And if you can't get anything for a month, then you're not a visual type of person. So go to the air contact, so the feeling of air, or the breath, and if you can't do those, then go to loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. There's traditionally 38 subjects of meditation or objects of meditation. And so there's quite a spectrum and variety of them. And some of them, you don't have to be able to do all of them. And if visual things are not your cup of tea, then that's fine. We will search for something that does work for you. Okay? Yeah.
Next question is from the live chat from Yuri in Praia Grande, Brazil. Ajahn, when I do breath meditation, different colors spontaneously come up in the mind. Should I try to do something with this experience, maybe deepen it?
When he does breath meditation?
When he does breath meditation, colors come up in his mind.
Yeah, well, so I think that's the sign that you should be practicing color meditation, that you're very visual. Yeah, by all means, go for the color thing. Yeah, work on that.
Our next question is from Alexandra in Colchester, Essex, United Kingdom. Venerable Ajahn Sona, reflecting on the four natural elements that constitute the body and the universe, I couldn't avoid thinking of their opposite, i.e., plastic. My question is, does plastic ultimately arise from the four elements and is to be considered somehow natural too? Or is it a distortion of nature that should simply be removed? Is there a correspondent to the plastic in the world of thoughts and emotions?
Well, it's one of the ancient Chinese philosophies. There's 5 elements, and plastic is the 5th one. Just kidding. No, actually, the Chinese do have 5 elements meditation. Wood, metal, something or other, and something or other. So plastic is simply the earth element. Anything that has solidity to it is earth element. And of course, it's artificial. It's produced by humans. And it has a kind of... It is interesting. It's when you touch, it's not part of our evolutionary process. So when you touch plastic, it's kind of got a weird kind of feel to it, and it's something. It's a kind of a puzzle to us, isn't it? Puzzling, and there's something that is not lovable about plastic. So is there an equivalent, emotional equivalent to plasticity? Plastic? Not plasticity. That plasticity means something that's flexible, but plastic. What was it? It was the famous line from the Graduate. Yes, I think I advise you to go and watch the movie The Graduate.
Remember one word.
Yeah,
Plastic.
it was The Graduate. This is Dustin Hoffman in 1967, I think it was. One of the most famous movie scenes of all time. He's graduated from college, and now, as with many of us, you don't know what to do. And there's a party for him, and somebody who's obviously a businessman in his 50s comes over to him to give him some very important advice. And he tells him, I have one word for you. One word. Plastic. Invest in plastic. So it's a kind of the disappointment that you're going to have to spend your life working at meaningless things. So the plastic can be equivalent to that as well, a bad future. Watch the movie. Okay, next.
Our next question is from Stefano in Florence, Italy. The counterpart image for the colors. When one closes one's eyes, the after image on the retina reads the complementary color, and you said that that's not to be focused on. It is, however, a natural draw for eye consciousness. Can you describe in more detail how one would not put their focus there, but instead develop an image of the Kasina color one is working with? Would you ever start with the complementary color to begin with?
Yes, you can. All that I talk in the talks, I emphasize that when you stare at blue and then you close your eyes, strangely, red appears, the complementary color. And if you stare at red, then when you close your eyes, blue appears. Weird. And I said, don't mistake that complementary appearance for the nimitta. But it doesn't mean that you can't use that. Now you see what a mind-made image is. You see this red disc hovering in your inner vision. So now, but you've got to switch to then the idea of red and see if you can maintain that image, sustain that image, create that image out of imagination. So that's one way to do it, is you stare at blue, close your eyes, the complementary red disc appears because of the optic nerves, the structure of the optic nerves. And then you can go from there to a mind-made, or the nimitta, the characteristic mind-created image. So you can do it that way, yes.
Ajahn, our final question is from MJ on the live chat. Looking into the 5 hindrances, is it useful to notice agitation and dissolve it before it becomes anger?
Absolutely. All of these 5 hindrances should be nipped in the bud. The first way you deal with them is dismissing. So people, they think there's some value in exploring their anger or exploring their agitation, etc. It really isn't. If you can possibly dismiss it the moment it arises, that's a very good practice. This is you don't hear this in modern times. You don't read about magazines. They're all exploring their inner life and their histories and this and that, and it goes on forever and never resolves. So this is like, you just simply, these things are not helpful to you. You need to dismiss and replace. So you dismiss and replace with something positive. Well, that brings us to the end of our questions for today, and I will let Pia close the Q&A session with some information.
Thank you, Ajahn. And this is our final Q&A for the retreat. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and throughout the retreat. A reminder again that tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time will be our final evening meditation, and then at 8:15 p.m. will be the final Dhamma talk. Tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. will be the final event of the retreat, which will be a morning meditation. A few days from now, we will be sending out a questionnaire and a survey to find out how you liked the retreat, what was useful to you, what you might want to improve upon. And that will go to everyone who's registered in the retreat. So if you haven't registered yet, we have kept the registration open, and you can just go to our retreat page, which is Birken, birken.ca/elements, and you'll find a link there to register for the retreat. Also, we'll be taking a break this summer from our weekly Q&As, and if you'd like to know when we'll be starting those again, you can sign up for our newsletter. That is on our webpage as well, birken.ca, and at the bottom of the page, you'll find a link to register for or subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.